After the Monday Night Football game where Jerry Jeudy had a nuclear performance, 235 yards, Elijah Moore almost had 100 yards in his own right, we had talked at length about receiver being a position of need early in the season for this Browns organization. Andrew Berry said they love the receiver room, and we kind of laughed at that. But after the last 5 games since Jameis has taken over, you've seen some of these guys kind of come into their own. Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, and Njoku's had 17 targets against Denver.
Sean King hates him, though.
I know. At this point,
Who does?
Sean King.
he was not happy with his
Well,
performance.
he did have some drops.
But at this point, do you guys still feel like receiver is a top priority for the Browns this offseason, or has your focus shifted to another area of the team that's more important? Gee, I see you shaking your head. You can start.
Why you do this? We've been here 3 years. You get us every year with this. Somebody show a glimpse here. Oh, we got Cedric Tillman. Somebody catch a couple football. Donovan Peoples-Jones. We got Elijah Moore that got a pulse. DP. Listen, again, this is where we always go wrong. The number one tentative project stockpile is if you think you got enough, go back to the grocery store. No. We're not answering this question. I get me 2 more receivers. I'm not playing around with this. So you got Amari Cooper, he's gone. Elijah Moore is a free agent. You want to give him some money? Probably not. Jamari Thrash is on the field. He finally caught a football. I don't know if he's good or not.
He got the over on the 1.5 receptions.
He did catch a football.
Yeah.
Got 2.
Kadarius Toney has his weekly jet sweep reverse for
that goes for negative yards. Yeah.
So yeah, if you want Jameis Winston that wants to throw the ball 54 times, I always say don't compare your roster to what you got. Compare it to what everybody else got. If you want to go find a wife, I would compare it to everybody else's wives.
That's cute, but the problem with your analogy is they went to the grocery store, dropped $80 million, and came home with an empty bag.
Hey, listen, they might want to refinance that.
Worse than that, Jay. They came back with a bag full of dead rats.
You're right.
They
nothing to help the football team.
Right.
So I know what you're saying because I'm with you too.
Well, they got to do it through the draft.
Stockpile. Yeah, you do, and that's the currency you have.
Yeah.
But really, you can't really think about signing free agents. That ship, I think, has sailed.
Trade. They better trade the heck. They better.
And what are the assets we're trading?
Listen, they got future picks.
Well, now you're trading the only
For
currency
who?
you have in the bank.
Who are you trading for? That's a definite number 1 receiver.
Once again, why
Draft.
is that rebuttal is not an honest an honest conversation.
I don't disagree with you, G. I agree they got to get better at receiver.
Yeah, but
I think they got to do it through the draft.
How do you do it?
But the onus is not on me to pull a receiver out of the sky and say this is the guy that's going to make it better.
No.
What I'm saying is, he said, is it a priority? That priority is yes. It's up to them to identify.
First of all, bad teams make the mistake of saying, we need this and this and this, and so let's take we need a wide receiver more than an offensive lineman, so let's take a wide receiver in the draft. The smart teams, like the Steelers and the Ravens, always take the best players. And then they figure it out after. We got too many.
Take into consideration their needs, too.
Sure.
Because what I like about the Steelers is they look at the draft, a 10-year draft cycle like a clock. This year, we're going to address this. Then we're going to address that. And then this and that. I think the Browns have at times been too focused on the shiny object, the OBJ,
all the time.
the land.
Because the people in that building, Jay, have not had the time that the Pittsburgh Steelers organization has had. So yes, the clock works. So they know exactly at 11 o'clock what they're going to do, and at 12 o'clock.
And there's a rotation that needs to be employed when you're drafting, because if I agree with you. You got to draft the best players.
Yeah.
And don't
quarterback is the only thing that doesn't fit in that.
Yes. But you've said, and I agree with you. Don't reach at quarterback.
No. I'm saying, but let's say in theory you think this quarterback you have the second pick in the draft. You think this quarterback is a first-round pick, but you got 10 guys graded ahead of him. In that case, if you need a quarterback, you take the quarterback.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's all I'm saying. But no, if you don't think there's if you're picking 6th. And you don't think any of the quarterbacks are worthy of a first-round pick, you don't take them just because you need a quarterback.
Right, yeah, because
that's
now
stupid.
You're trying to force it.
Yes.
The one thing that I wish the Browns did more of, and I know that there are certain organizations that do this, and Dustin, you'll probably be able to talk to this too. You look at the draft, and you look at each category and grade that strength of the draft. Is this a rich quarterback draft?
Yeah.
Well, the Denver Broncos are a really interesting case study. I don't think in any of their mock draft scenarios did they have 5 quarterbacks being off the board when they took their quarterback at number 12.
Yeah.
That's a crazy number. Half
Sure.
of the first 12 picks were quarterbacks. So I imagine that they were in a bit of a scramble mode because they may have had other players with higher grades than Bo Nix. But if they looked at last year's quarterback draft and said, this year, just throwing numbers out, we assign an 89 grade to the quarterbacks in this year's draft. Next year, and it's harder to do to project out because you still have their last year of college that you can't factor in. But you kind of look ahead and you say, the quarterback draft next year looks much softer.
Right.
So we've got to get our guy this year. So even though it's number 6 off the of the quarterbacks, we probably have a better chance at hitting on 6 this year than we do finding a guy next year.
And they might, like maybe on the Broncos board, Bo Nix was number 2 or 3.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
You know, we don't know where they had him in the hierarchy.
And I don't know that we'll ever know because a lot
Sure,
of
no,
times
they're
when
never
they
going to be
draft him,
honest
they'll
about
say,
it.
wow, this worked out crazy
Yeah.
for us. We had Bo Nix.
Sean
Yeah, who
Payton
knows?
said he was his favorite quarterback in the
Yeah,
draft.
of course he
Well,
did.
of course he
did.
did. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're never going to find out.
He said that after the draft.
There's no way the Broncos, if they had the first pick, would have taken him first. No, I'll never believe that.
No team would have taken him first.
No.
I mean, the guy was a journeyman essentially in college. He had a really good year the final year. But
Yeah.
I mean, like,
It was all over.
He could have been third on their board behind Caleb and Daniels. Like, that's possible.
sure. But I mean, I don't know. You're not going to come out and be like, hey, we're stuck with you.
You know,
Yeah, right, of
Well,
course.
we didn't want him, but he was the only
Yeah.
one left.
You know what proves my point about the revolving quarterback? Like, the question started about receiver, and we somehow got back to Bo
Yeah,
Nix.
that's true.
It's the quarterback thing. Like,
To answer the question, though, I do think I don't know about priority. I think there are other positions where there are other priorities, but I think ultimately it is important to have a true number 1 wide receiver. Now, there aren't enough to go around. There aren't enough.
But didn't Judy look like a number 1?
He did.
Monday night?
He did that night, but the number 1s look like that all the time, or almost all the
Well,
time.
not
That's what he looked
245.
like in college, though, which is crazy.
But
And Bull, really, honestly, the most stunning thing that my biggest takeaway over the last 5 weeks is this. A receiving core that we thought was a D+, and I'm being kind, suddenly Jameis has thrown for 400 yards and 500 yards.
Right.
Now, a lot of that is on the quarterback, clearly. But guys are open. He's delivering footballs. And now you can look at it this way, too. Maybe if guys were a little better and they were getting more separation, his interceptions would come down because he's not trying to force things into areas that really there's nothing there.
For what it's worth, this is Sean's opinion. It's worth a lot. Obviously, he played in the NFL as a quarterback. He thinks that all the guys are just guys outside of Jerry Jeudy. He says he thinks Jameis is making the rest look better, that Judy's legit. Now, I don't buy that Judy's a number 1 wide receiver. I think we've almost never seen a number 1 wide receiver become a number 1 wide receiver in his 5th year in the league. When does that happen? I mean, that's rare.
It is.
And we could debate it fine. I mean, obviously, the last few weeks he's played like a number 1 receiver, but all the true elite wide receivers, they play like that essentially their whole careers. Not that they never have a bad game, but consistently they do that. Now, who knows? If I'm the Browns, you know what's a good problem to have? If the Browns are able to get a legitimate number 1 wide receiver via trade, unlikely, but who knows, or via the draft, obviously all these good young receivers came through the draft. The Browns haven't had luck with the draft for the most part. If they end up getting a guy that's a true number 1 wide receiver and Jerry Jeudy ends up developing into a number 1 wide receiver, that's a perfectly fine problem to have, not a problem. I think Cedric Tillman is a fine number 3. I think he's a number 3. I would let Elijah Moore walk, even though he's done a nice job.
Man, I watch these other teams, and I'm watching teams that ain't even that good.
Yeah.
Have spoils of riches at receivers. The Dolphins, the Texans got 3 good receivers. The Bengals got 2-3 good receivers.
2.
The San Francisco 49ers, multiple receivers. The Seahawks, multiple receivers. And every single year, I keep having to talk myself into the Browns having good receivers. The reality is, guys, they don't have them. They don't develop them, and they got to go trade for them. You tell me one receiver they drafted that turned out to be anything. If you say all-time Browns list, it's a bunch of black and white photos of guys that look like Dustin.
Yeah.
Max Speedy.
Facts.
Yeah.
That cannot happen in this division. Even we laugh at George Pickens. But I mean,
well, all the teams in this division have a wide receiver, in my opinion, that's better than Jerry Jeudy, right?
I agree with that.
You know,
I agree with that.
I know Jerry Judy's got more receiving yards. I think, or at least I think he does. But anybody would take Pickens or Flowers over Jerry Jeudy. Yep. Now Pickens is a bit of a head case, but they're better players than Jerry Jeudy. And they've made an impact immediately in their careers. Even in Flowers' case, it's on a team that runs the ball, but he's dynamic.
And not to mention, they got other guys like tight ends that still perform and got ball players. So it's like, I need me one of them. I need 2 or 3.
The last thing I'll say about the receivers is on Jerry Jeudy, the talent's there. You can see it.
Sure.
What I'm questioning is the motivation. He talked about how important it was to go in and have a good game. Afterwards, he made some comments. He clearly played the best game we've ever seen him play.
Yeah.
I always say to that, can you bring that same fire every week? Like, okay, just pretend you're playing the Broncos every week.
Yeah, Dustin mentioned that yesterday.
I don't understand that.
When he does it in a game where it's not against his old team, then I'll feel better about his chances becoming like
that's a good receiver.
Having a 235-yard game doesn't happen very often for anybody.
It doesn't happen. I mean, it was
the funny thing is it's happened
honest,
within the last calendar year. It's happened twice, and both times it wasn't Deshaun Watson throwing the football.
But it was Joe Flacco. It was a perfect storm for the way things. You know, Jameis was throwing a ton in the ball game. It was a weird game with the turnovers and the back.
Yeah, well,
it was up and down the field, and like then you come out in the second half and you have the 70-yard touchdown. Like that's a big part of it.
Sure. Plus they couldn't run the ball, so they had to throw it more. And
guys never have 240 yards without at least a 75-yard or 60-yard touchdown or something.
Absolutely.
Perfect storm.